So, let me be clear from the outset that this isn't clickbait. Unlike the usual moronic nonsense I post on this channel, this video is actually important. It could save your life or the life of somebody you care about. So let me tell you the story of how all this happened. Back in 2018, as almost everyone watching this will know, Blizzard re-released classic Warcraft. For those that don't know, the original version of Warcraft was quite simple by modern standards, and unlike the modern version of the game, most of the gameplay was focused on leveling from 1 to 60, which in many cases took normal players months. The re-release of classic Warcraft was a massively popular event, to quite a staggering extent. For me and everyone else's YouTube channel, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make some really popular content, and many of us threw ourselves into it. If you didn't already know, this YouTube channel finds glitches and creative use of game mechanics in World of Warcraft, and I mainly find these plays through my own gameplay. Leveling in classic World of Warcraft is really slow. I made a huge mistake in not choosing my natural class, the mage, to level with, and instead chose the second tier class, the rogue. Even though I know of many ways to speed up leveling, my own gameplay is really slow because I have to check, double check, test and retest every quest, new ability and game feature for potential angles, so it is a much slower process than it would be for a regular player. It took me over 2 months of gameplay to get my first 60 without doing much else. Despite the fact I was putting in over 100 hours a week playing, I did manage to do some exercise during this period. Even at this time I managed to walk about 12 miles each week. But the issue here was not so much that I was unfit, it was more to do with the fact that classic Warcraft requires you to be very sedentary for long periods. This is very bad for you. What happened next could only be described as my body just shutting down. I'm not going to go into the details, but I was in a lot of pain. After Classic began to die down in popularity, the need to play so excessively began to decline, but I'm fairly certain the damage had already been done. I was very reluctant to seek medical help. This is kind of a male cliche. Mostly we just hope medical problems go away rather than just actually seek treatment, which in many cases is fatal. When Shadowlands came along in late 2020, we were in full lockdown, and there was, again, an unprecedented opportunity to get views, as most people couldn't leave their homes, and video games enjoyed a massive spike in popularity. The number of patrons I had exploded. I should have been ecstatic, but I didn't enjoy much of it, as I was simply too unwell. At this stage, I was ready to seek medical advice. But lockdown had greatly complicated everything, so the situation persisted for several years. By 2023, with the world coming out of lockdown, I finally went to see my doctor and got some tests done, and it turned out my blood sugar was so high I was basically a walking fucking cookie. It wasn't compatible with a healthy lifestyle, or indeed being alive at all. He managed to rule out cancer, which was a big weight on my mind, and diagnosed me with type 2 diabetes. This is quite a serious condition. Left untreated, it will knock 20 years off your life expectancy. There is a much greater chance of a heart attack, severe vision loss, and other complications. I was then referred to a diabetic nurse who wanted to put me on lots of drugs. I am very reluctant to take any type of drug, so I devoted myself instead to a comprehensive exercise and diet regime. This seemed to work. I managed to basically halve my blood sugar in about 6 months or so. The improvement in my quality of life was quite astonishing. You just get so much dopamine from regular exercise. It's like being on drugs all the time without the side effects. Losing even small amounts of weight gets you a remarkably different response from people. They shouldn't, but they do treat you very differently. And it's worth mentioning, for younger people, you get a lot more attention from the opposite sex. Sometimes dieting and exercise can be difficult, but it doesn't require nearly as much willpower as you might think. mainly because you remember how bad you felt before and how much work that was. Like, for example, when you eat too much, you don't really enjoy any of it because you get desensitized to it. I eat much less now, but everything I eat tastes divine because my body really needs it. You get these amazing moments of chilled, quiet calm after you do gentle exercise where nothing bothers you that much and stress just vanishes. I feel that people who promote healthy living tend to promote the concept really badly. In many ways, it is easier than living an unhealthy lifestyle. It's actually often the lazier option. You don't have to join a gym or do anything sporty or whatever. Just go for a walk or dance around to some internet video. In many ways, very perversely, diabetes was actually a good thing for me since my life is just more enjoyable now. I'm not minimizing the seriousness of the condition. I'm pointing this out so that people who have been recently diagnosed don't lose hope. One huge advantage I had in this situation was that when I was younger, I was incredibly fit. I used to run half marathons and spend all my time in the gym. So I knew I could get fit again. Without that self-knowledge and that awareness of the fact that I could do it, it would have been much more difficult. And I want to spread that self-belief to anyone who might be going through the same thing right now. One of the reasons I'm making this video is that the nurse I was assigned to told me that of the 800 or so diabetic cases in her catchment area, only 2 had gone into remission, and I was one of them. Now, it shouldn't be that hard. There's something has gone badly wrong with society if you're getting so few cases of remission, because all I basically did was eat right and do a bit of exercise, not usually more than 2 or 3 hours a day. To state the obvious, video games can be really addictive and dangerous, and everyone needs to take time out every now and again to make sure it isn't damaging them. I think in the vast majority of cases, video games are a positive thing and can greatly enhance your quality of life, and my experience is not representative. A big part of the problem for me is that Warcraft is my job, and I have to play to survive financially. Nor is any of this really Blizzard's fault. Although the original world of Warcraft was highly addictive and designed to keep people playing, Blizzard moved away from that model almost from the moment the game was released. And indeed have been heavily criticised by the player base for not offering a game with enough challenge. Classic Warcraft was only reintroduced as part of a grassroots campaign by the player base itself. Finally, I'd really like to hear your stories about this. Feedback on this could be really important to somebody else, so if you have a story worth telling, then please share it. There does seem to be a climate of silence around this and other types of male-related health issues, which I think is utterly stupid. For me, candid disclosure is a power move, a symbol of masculine strength. And the more people talk about it, the better.